All right, so this is part 3 of section 1.5. It's going to be one of the shorter sections. And all we're looking at are even versus odd functions versus neither one. And so what is an even function? Well, basically for every input of x, if we have f of x, that's going to give us f of negative x. So basically the graph is going to be symmetric about the y-axis. All right. Then for odd functions, if for every input of x, f of x is equal to negative f of negative x, which means the graph of an odd function is symmetric about the origin, that makes it odd. And if neither one of them, it doesn't satisfy even or odd. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to plug in a negative x here, and if that equals our f of x original, then it's even. If we plug in a negative x and then change the sign of the y's, and that gives us f of x, that gives us an odd. And if it doesn't satisfy either, then it's going to be a neither function. So is the given function even, odd, or neither? All right, so what are we going to do here? Well, here what I'm going to look at is I'm just going to find out what h of negative x is, and I'm going to find out what negative h of negative x is. And so basically I'm just going to plug in a negative x in each place here of x. So that's going to be a negative x times 2 is going to be negative 2x. And negative x cubed is going to still be negative because the cube doesn't change the sign, so it's going to become positive x cubed. Okay. Now, is this the same here? These are not the same. And so therefore, it's not even. Okay. Well, now what do we do? Well, now I want to change the signs of all the outputs. And if I do that, basically all I have to do is change the signs of all of the things here. If I do that, that gives me 2x, and that becomes negative x cubed. Well, now if I look at this versus the original, so now if I look at these two, they're the same. And what does that mean? Well, since they're the same, it means it's an odd function. Okay, and so that's what we find on this one. It's going to be odd, and that's how we're going to do it. I'm just going to plug in a negative x into the original function and get out the new equation or new function. Then I'm going to change the sign of that function to get the negative h of negative x, and look at that, and then compare those to see if either one of them are equal to the original f of x. If so, then it's going to be either even or odd, and if neither one of them work, then it's going to be neither. So let's do a few more. So here we have f of x equals the x minus 2 the quantity squared. Well, now this one, it's going to be kind of hard to kind of work with that one in this form because you're going to always have to keep multiplying it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and FOIL this out. So if you remember, when you FOIL, it's going to be that one squared, so it's s squared, and then this times 2, so it's going to be minus 2x times 2 is going to be minus 4x, and then this times itself, so plus 4. And so that's our original f of x, FOILed out and giving us just the function as one solid stream. Now we can find f of negative x, and then the next one is negative f of negative x. Okay, so now we're going to replace a negative x for all the x's. Well, negative x squared is going to be x squared. And if we plug in a negative x here, it's a negative times negative, so it's going to be plus 4x, and then plus 4. Well, those two are not the same, so not even. Okay. Now I'm going to plug in a negative in all of them, change all their signs. So that gives me negative x squared minus 4x minus 4. Now, does that compare? Nope, it's not the same either. So not odd. And because of this, it's neither. Okay, so it's neither odd nor even. And so that one, you had to do a little bit more work, get it to this point here, and then plug in the negative x in each case, and then change the sign of all of them. All right, what about our next one? Okay, well, g of x is the square root of x. Okay, so it's one of those nice functions that's a toolkit function, and so it looks something like that. Okay. Well, now we want g of a negative x, all right? Well, that means we're going to reflect across the y-axis, and so it's going to go something like that. All right, and so that's going to be the square root of a negative x. Well, guess what? Those two are not the same, so not even. Now we want to find negative g of negative x, and so we're just going to change the sign there, so that's a negative square root of negative x. And what does that say? Well, we're going to change all the y's to go the opposite direction, so this one stays the same, that comes down, and so now, now we have something like this. Well, it's going to be better looking, but it's going to look like that, and that is not the same as our original function, and so it's not odd either, and so this one again is it's neither odd nor even. Okay, and so sometimes drawing what you have here and looking at it is helpful. Now if we think about this, when we draw this, what is our domains? We could also go by domains. So our domain here is from where's my eraser? It's going to be from 0 to positive infinity, and our domain here is going to be from negative infinity to 0, and here it's going to be from negative infinity to 0 as well. Okay, and so then that's how this one should work. And so we notice that our domains are also not the same, and because of that we can also say it's neither. So if we didn't draw the graph, or we couldn't realize that they weren't the same looking at them this way, then there's three ways we've looked at it. We've looked at it this way, we've looked at it with the domains, and we looked at it graphically on that example, and that one kind of shows that it's not anything no matter how we look at it. What about here? 2x to the fourth. All right, well, this one we can just start plugging in things. We can plug in a negative x, and then we can say, well, h of the negative x. Okay, well, if we plug in a negative x to the fourth, that's going to become positive. So that's 2x to the fourth. Now, if we take the opposite of that, that's a negative 2x to the fourth. Well, that's not the same. So that's not odd. But guess what? That and that are the same. And so therefore, it is even. Okay, so we've had an even one, we've had neither, another neither, and we've had an odd. And so that's kind of how you're going to work through all of those, going from finding where the original value is as far as h of x is equal to something, then h of negative x, and then the opposite of h of negative x. So hopefully that will help you on that section, and I'll come back for next one.